free Golden Eagles for War Thunder. Download the app in the description below.
Hey guys, welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to some PogChamp MiG-9 late gameplay. Now, if you've seen any jet combat that I've uploaded in the past 6 months, it's mostly been just, kind of gameplay. It hasn't been talking about the technique or talking about the tactics or really anything about it, gameplay-wise, because I've been gone from the jet community. I really have only been playing jets competitively in ground forces, and even that, I've talked about a little bit yesterday on the stream, that there's not really that many jets that would suit the ground forces role. And as I'm coming back into the whole kind of jet era, and I want to relearn and repartake in this, what is a very elite game mode, I want to take it slowly. And I figured that the best way to do it is to kind of revisit some of the older 6.7, 7.0, perhaps up to 8.0 jets before I jump straight into the 9.0s. I want to kind of relearn the way that I used to, because this is the kind of step-by-step process that you go through. To get to the MiG-17, you got to go through the MiG-15, and you got to go through the MiG-9s, and so why not fly out some of the vehicles that I have not touched in not just months, but years. And it was quite a while ago, I think it must have been about a year, where a rework came in for jets, where they've re-bracketed some of the aircraft, so that the P-80 and the F-80 would be in the same bracket, the MiG-9, the MiG-9 late, I believe the Meteor and the C-Meteor, and we have the A-5 Sabre and the F-25 Sabre. Could be wrong here, but the way they did it is so that you don't have to unlock the MiG-9 late, for example, to research through to the MiG-15. Instead, you could skip through the MiG-9 late, and it makes sense, because performance-wise, the only real difference between the MiG-9 and the MiG-9 late is engine performance. The MiG-9 late is a little bit more powerful. When it comes to the guns, the armament is the same. Visual models, there's a slight difference in the camouflage, and the MiG-9 late has the gun pods or the fuel tanks on the wings. Really, we're talking about two aircraft that are kind of like brethren, They have the same, visual look, they have the same weaponry, they have slight differing performance, but altogether, they're just a slight upgrade one from each other. So, real tip would be, get the MiG-9, as it is probably one of the better Russian starter jets at the moment. The Yak-15s being a very good option as well, but you'll, have to suffer from the lack of ammunition there. So if you like something with big, powerful guns, the MiG-9 is really something you shouldn't skip over. If you like it, then do get the MiG-9 late. I think the MiG-9 late is a worthy aircraft of researching, and if you're bold enough, one of the biggest tips would be at the moment, which it has its bat rating at 7.0, you throw a talisman on this thing, and you can grind out the entire Russian sector. And the reason I say this is because you can grind out jets with a premium aircraft. Let's say the LA-11 that I showed about 2 weeks ago. Fantastic plane. You could take the LA-11, I could take it, fly it for 200, 300 matches, unlock my top-tier jets, and case closed. But you're not taking into consideration the matchmaker, the armament. The MiG-9 late is a fantastic plane because it has the same guns as the later MiG variants, meaning you're going to have the same experience when it comes to leading guns, roughly the same experience, when you finally unlock your top-tier jets. So, you won't be completely unfamiliar with the way the MiG-15's guns work, and I think that's why the MiG-9 and the MiG-9 late are fantastic starter jets. And yet, there's a bit of a problem I've got with the MiG-9 late, which is the engine. There's added engine performance. You have the option to WEP, or provide 108% to the throttle. This feels great. And I'm a person who really likes having the option to WEP, to push the engine to that slight bit of extra performance. But I've also got a tendency of not using it at emergency situations, but really burning it through all dogfights. And what happens is, after a good 7 minutes of time, my engines are ember and they start dying out. So be wary. The engines on the MiG-9 late will overheat quite quickly, especially if you're not traveling at reasonably high altitudes or going at high speeds. Turn fights at low altitude, which is what I'm about to do for a long extended time, is not the ideal way to use your engines. Now, what's also not ideal is turn fighting a vampire, but I was a little bit persistent, trying to finish off the, reasonably easy kill that I butchered up early on in the engagement, but it wasn't going to work, so obviously pull off and go after the P-80. The technique I'm using when flying the MiG-9 in this particular match is not boom and zooming. It's not turn fighting, if I say. It's more of an energy fight role. It's trying to see how far you can push the plane. Now, the way I do this is by quite literally feeling the aircraft. What you're doing is you're putting yourself into quite tight maneuvers, you're pushing the flaps, you're throttling the engine around. you're seeing how the aircraft performs. And the reason this is important to do is because if you're going to be flying an aircraft for extended periods of time, you need to know where the boundaries are. You need to know how far the engine can be pushed before it dies. You need to know how quickly you can zoom climb. You need to know how quickly you can rip your wings off. You need to know if there are some negative G or positive G boundaries. You need to know how well you can aileron roll. You cannot learn how to fly an aircraft unless you make mistakes. And so mistakes are nice to be made. But what is also nice is knowing that regardless of the enemy's capabilities of turn fight, you can still perform maneuvers such as this one. It's a clean reverse loop. Hell, I think half the time I don't even know what I'm doing. I mean, the maneuvers I'm performing, I don't think I have a word for them. Like, I don't follow the split S, Immelman, rolling scissors. I just do it. I just know what has to be done and perform it at a particular time schedule. So half the time I think maneuvers I'm performing, could be named anything. It's playstyle. Playstyle is what makes this game fun. And altering playstyles is probably the best thing you learn to do. And when I was going through the spading process on all these aircraft, you're flying certain things that are just, they're not meant to be flown, like the Firebrand, or certain attackers that you've got, or maybe a bomber with frontal mounted guns. There's a lot of weird stuff in the game, and what was fun, it was flying things the way they, wouldn't really be intended in a historical manner. And that's what makes the game just so much more intriguing to me, to fly something in a completely different way than players would expect to play it. This is the plain idea behind reverse psychology in the game. I mean, if I'm playing the game, let's say I'm playing 10,000 matches, right? 10,000 matches in top-tier jets. I can predict the majority of players in particular vehicles are going to do a particular thing. So I can expect that, the majority of hunters are going to fly through the same corridor, climb in the same manner, usually engage in the same ways. There's a pattern that starts to appear. But what happens is sometimes you see someone in an aircraft that nobody else flies. Like the Cougar, which I absolutely despise. Or maybe it's the Panthers, or you've got the odd Meteor F Mark 8, one of my favorite jets in the game. Those aircraft are fun to play because nobody plays them. It means they have this unique value. This is something I talked about in the Kai 87 video. You don't need to have a premium that nobody else has. You don't even need to have aircraft that are so bad nobody else flies them. You just have to apply such a weird tactic, a weird technique to flying with a little bit of luck, and you might just be able to pull off that. And yeah, I mean, this is pretty rare. This happens once every maybe 100 matches, but it makes for some great footage, so obviously going to include it. What I love is finding out and distinguishing rookies from people who are well cemented in the jet era. Because jets are sort of like a reset point. I think early jets, 6.7 to 8.0, is not much different from Tier 1 and 3. Which means I don't play Tier 1 and 3, primarily because it's filled with players that I could defeat with, probably one of my hands behind my backs. Because the majority of them are early newcomers to the game. They're still not used to the way the spotting mechanics work, especially not in realistic battles. And it makes it it's a SEAL Club fest, and I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy playing a game mode where I've got the experience and I don't have to really have a challenge on my hands, and it's just, kill after kill. Don't find it fun. I like a bit of a challenge, and to impose a challenge when it comes to having a reasonable amount of experience, even though I've been gone from jet matches, I still have I'm going to say kind of the gun lead for the MiG-9. I kind of know how the main evasion techniques work, but I don't like to approach these, what are potentially rookie players. And the way I distinguish rookie players from experienced players is simply because they perform prop aircraft mistakes. Since jet combat is so different from props, what tends to happen is when people unlock their first jet and they take it into their first couple of dozen matches, they're still bound to perform propeller-driven mistakes, meaning stall climbs, trying to maneuver with throttle controls and flaps at very low speeds. There's a few things about jets that differ from propeller-driven aircraft, and if you're able to look at players and recognize each and every micro mistake they make, and if you can, understand that these mistakes are being made in a prop manner, it's very quick to distinguish a pattern between the player that is experienced, knows what they're doing, knows why they're doing it, and a person who's instinctively reacting to a scenario with a prop-driven maneuver. You can very quickly distinguish those. And what happens is, you can go and engage certain players in a less serious manner. If I know a player who I'm engaging is less dangerous, I can let them get on my 6, let them get a couple of shots off, let them feel nice and comfortable, and then I can start going into my reversals, defensive flying, which is something that I really like doing. And cherry on top of the cake for this reasonably weird match was a nice little disconnection from the internet. Feels bad, man. Happens quite often, happened for the past week, obviously, those of you who watched the last video. And speaking of the last video, for last week, thank you for all the support there. A lot of great blokes in the comment section. However, there was one comment that stood out for me, and when I read it, I really enjoyed it. No, I'm not being sarcastic here. This comment was the best of the bunch, and it can be paraphrased into something I like to call what really is the true core of motivation. You see, when you feel like giving up, when you're on the very bottom, when you feel like there's just nothing else you can do, that's when you push that little extra bit harder. And no, I'm not going to take a break from the game. I'm not going to take a break from anything. I am very close to my ultimate goal. It's going to be done by the end of this weekend. And next week, we're starting with extreme PogChamp content. I'm going to be focusing on techniques, tactics, in depth. We're going to break apart the game bit by bit. Anyways, thank you for watching. The connection to the server has been lost. You'll be returned to the menu. And I'm going to catch you in the next one. Take care and safe flying.